Wes, in VRP 2.0, there was a new component introduced called the data mover. Can you explain a little bit about how it works?
Sure.
In VRP? Okay.
All right, so as Bob said, in VRP 2.0, we introduced a new VMware virtual machine replication appliance. And the way it works is it runs in a VMware high availability cluster. So we have to have a high availability cluster of VMware at both the primary site and the secondary site, the disaster recovery site that we're going to be replicating to. And the data mover is called the gateway. So we're going to set up a data mover gateway appliance. It's a virtual machine appliance that runs as a guest on one of the ESX servers that runs in the high availability cluster. And this is a very simplistic view. I've got one ESX server, one VM. We got our appliance here. We have one data store, but of course we can have multiple ESX servers, multiple VMs, all managed by one gateway appliance. It's one appliance per HA cluster. Okay? It can run on any one of the ESX servers in that cluster, and the VMs, of course, that are being replicated can run on any of those ESX servers in that cluster as well. We can have multiple data stores also. But this is a very simple one disk for my virtual machine right here. So one of the things that makes this work is VMware introduced a new component called VAIO, V-A-I-O. I'll just put it right in here, V-A-I-O, which stands for vSphere APIs for I/O filtering. It's a series of filters that allows third-party companies, technology companies like Veritas, to introduce our components into this space to intercept data that's being written from your virtual machine to its disk. So we can intercept that and do with it as we will. In this case, we do replication. So we intercept this by applying a policy to these filters that takes the data, and our components that gets installed on the ESX servers on the first resiliency group that you build is called VXTAP. We'll intercept this data and send it to our gateway appliance. The gateway appliance will then have a paired configuration with an appliance at your primary data center with your disaster recovery data center, where it's going to be sending the data to. And during the initial operation, when we create a resiliency groups, where we're going to identify the cluster we're replicating to and the data store we're replicating to at the alternate site, and the disk that is currently being utilized with this virtual machine here, that we're tapping right here, will then be synchronized over to the other site. So we're going to have this disk, which is a synchronization of this one, will be attached to our data mover gateway here, our appliance. And as we're replicating over, we're just writing to a local disk that's attached to the gateway. And once it's fully synchronized and consistent and up to date, then we perform migration operations and takeover operations, rehearsal operations, etc. So an example with a migration operation is we want to shut down this virtual machine here and bring it up on this site. So basically what we're going to do is bring this virtual machine down. Okay? We already have the duplicate data over here in this disk. We're going to detach this disk from this machine. We're going to unregister this from the VMware inventory over here and register it to the VMware inventory over here. So we have VM1, it's going to come online here, attach this disk here, and bring it online. And now we have our virtual machine running at the disaster recovery site. Once that's attached here, we're now going to replicate back over to here. So this disk now needs to be attached to this appliance. And we replicate this way, bringing this up to date and keeping it going as writes occur. And then when we migrate back, it's just a reverse of that process. And if we did a takeover operation, we would do, well, half of that process. Takeover operations, assuming things fail. Of course, we don't shut things down willy-nilly. We're going to attempt to bring things down even in a takeover operation, but it's best effort. Okay? And there you go.
Well, great. This seems to make a lot of sense how it works with the addition of that particular piece that came in from VMware.
Yep.
Makes it very simple.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate it, Wes. Thanks for taking us through.
It's a nice tool.